Welcome to the Commando cast. I am Mike.
And I'm Andrew. And over the weekend, we all met up as a play group and we played a whole bunch of casual games. And I think we both had some learnings out of that. So we wanted to spend the day talking about learnings from casual. All right, guys, so we're finally back from holiday break. Mike, how was your holidays?
Oh, man. It was good. I had a good couple weeks. I had some light work, so several days off, intermixed with the regular holidays. So a lot of good family time. Unfortunately, not a lot of dice, but I did get a chance to get reacquainted with Tabletop Simulator, which was kind of nice. So a little bit of musings for regionals, you know, like my ideas and whatnot. So that was good. What'd you do?
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah, we had the standard Gongai tournaments, and actually, that's the biggest news of the week is Mike actually made it to a Gongai tournament.
Yeah, my Saturdays are a little rough sometimes, but
yeah. So those videos are all up on the Dice Commando channel. You guys should check them out, or at least the top table videos are. So I actually ended up winning the tournament, which was amazing. I was running Han Biggs, Armored, the Flyboys deck, is I think what they're calling it. I've heard Mustache Riders. I think the original version was Top Gun. I've, of course, put my own little spin on it. What were you running, Mike?
Let's see. This weekend... Oh, I actually tried Boba 7th.
Right.
And our match, which was the last match...
Which is streamed.
Yeah, streamed. It's a tad over 11 minutes, and that's actually us, I think, setting and me taking about two 2-minute-long stares at the dice. So
thinking this can't be really happening.
Right. Apparently, Destiny is very easy when you just roll out and get 12 damage every round.
And it was both sides, right? I mean, so for those of you who watched the video, I rolled amazing. But so did Mike. Yeah. Mike never got an upgrade on the table and only needed like 3 more damage at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think my 7th sister rolled 4 or 5 damage, like
pretty consistently.
Yeah, between
and her. Boba rolled well too, but he blew up immediately. So
he got carpet bombed right off the table. It was pretty good.
So yeah, that deck's a lot of fun to play. I think some people are doing okay with it at regionals. I don't know if that's a regional level deck. When it rolls good, and when it doesn't, it feels real bad.
I think it has a lot of. There's a lot of tricks to it. Mm-hmm. Like if it can get past the first two, rounds alive, like if Biggs if they could get past round 2 with Biggs alive, then it has all its survivability tricks.
Past round 2 with Biggs alive?
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's over at that
point. That's that's the problem I have as a player against that deck. Is it feels like if I don't burn down Biggs before he gets a chance to do his thing around 2, the game is really hard to win, because then you start playing hyperspace jumps, retreats, second chances, and it just gets really hard to close the game out because it's so fast. Who knew when we started playing that? Remember how slow vehicles used to be?
Right.
The way you dealt with vehicles was playing retreat and hyperspace jump, but now it's a tool of those.
Yeah. Decks. Well, I mean, we've talked about this before, right? With armored reinforcement, and I actually want to do an episode on armored reinforcement and Theed and kind of talking about the cards that are defining the meta right now. And that's definitely one of them. But with armored reinforcement, you're basically playing an aggro deck that has a vehicle die. So it's essentially, you're essentially giving up 3 points and 2 resources for a 5 die deck. Yeah,
I feel like I have the only way I could really have a chance against that deck is if I can keep you off 3 resources, like. And that's I have to like almost stop you from taking 2 at the beginning of the game, because you can feed. So if you lose the battlefield, I think that's where your deck.
Right, and interestingly enough, so there's three of my games are on stream, and the first 2, the first one's actually versus Amy, and I want to talk about her deck real quick too. But the first 2 games, I did not get my battlefield, and basically it's me flubbing around for the first turn trying to find a resource. Yeah. And in one turn, actually it was the game versus Amy, I actually didn't even activate the Falcon because I wanted the battlefield so bad just to roll out first. Oh yeah. Right, so left dice on the table. So, but that leads us into talking about Amy's deck. So Amy over the weekend she has been running Luke 3 Kit Fisto, and we were kind of spitballing this week, and I was like, well, what about Ayla, right? It's the same hit points net with Bitter Rivalry, and you don't get to your opponent doesn't get to draw a card in that case. And I think that deck was pretty good. Yeah, well, Ayla's still broken. I don't think she's broken. Her versus Yoda.
Okay. Well, her her sticks on this deck make her one of the most potent close quarters assault decks. I got a chance to do it.
And we definitely stuck that in there. Yes.
Yeah, I got a chance to do some testing against that deck this weekend on Tabletop Simulator, and I was able to kill Ayla before the end of the first round. Like, I just blew her off the table.
What deck are you running?
I was running Hankira.
Okay.
And I massacred Ayla. Like, she didn't even get a chance to resolve her dice. I just killed her. And then I thought I had the game in hand, and I got CQA'd twice in second and third round, and it really took me off my game. By the end of the game, I was down to 2 cards in hand, and I just couldn't reroll. I couldn't, like, and it was so hard to get through Kit's ability. So maybe that's where we can start.
No, well, I mean, I don't know that we need to go super in depth of it. I mean, and I think that's kind of the beauty / strength of the deck, is the deck really plays itself. Like, you and I were texting about it over the weekend and today, and there's not really much deck tech you need to do about it, because you basically run some redeploy weapons, you run binds, you run some of the blue removal package, which
so
is
all
amazing.
the best blue cards,
and you run CQA, and I think the debate is, do you run Sound the Alarm or not for the gray card? Like, I mean, that's pretty much it, right? And the deck's very straightforward, it's very effective, it's very efficient. I don't know, 50% damage size on Ayla plus a flipper. Kit can just block.
And I took out Ayla quickly both times I played it this weekend, and I lost both games against it, and it was just because by the time I got it with Amy and the person I played on Tabletop Simulator had enough tricks to keep me from killing Ayla immediately, except for the guy where I did the plant explosion on him, but they were able to keep me off Kit long enough to by the start of the end of the second round, Kit had 3 upgrades: 4-speed, Shoto, and I think Ezra's, if I remember right.
Ezra's. Oh, you're talking about the game with Amy?
The game I played on Tabletop Simulator. Okay. Like, I mean, it was really.
I was going to say. I mean, we love Ezra's. Yeah. I mean, that card with it's just the redeploy. That's the only thing to love about that card, right? But so anyway, we are rat-tailing. I want to start talking about the actual subject we want to talk about. So what Mike did is he set up a casual. So we were at a bar.
Yeah, 649 Tap House. Good job, 649.
The shout out. But he set up a meeting, and we all kind of rolled in with casual-ish decks. Yeah. But what's interesting is I think we actually learned quite a bit from playing casual.
Yeah, no one.
So what decks did you bring, Mike?
Yeah, I brought 2 decks, and again, I was trying to kind of play for fun.
Right. We were just hanging out and having beers.
Right. So I brought a deck that I stole from one of Symbio's buddies. They were doing
at T3 Gaming.
The T3 Gaming. Yeah, they were running a Palp Loose Solidarity.
Oh,
deck.
Okay.
And that, by the way, was super fun. And I mean, it's effective. I don't think it's tier 1, but it's not meant to be. It was meant to be fun, right? Super. It was good. And then the other deck that I ran was, I didn't bring Boba 7th. I can't remember. I'll think about it when we talk about the decks.
The only one I played was Palp Loose.
Okay.
So I brought 3 decks actually. I brought Hankira. Yep. Because I thought that'd be fun.
Sure. I loved it.
Better than fun, by the way. So I brought Hankira. I brought my Talzin Iden Armored Reinforcement deck. Also better than fun. And I brought Brothers, which is Maul and Savage. Yeah. Which I actually won a game, so great. And
I remember the deck I brought. It was Phasma and DJ.
Oh, Phasma DJ. DJ Phasma.
Yeah, and that was pretty good still.
So I played around with that deck in the last meta, and it was okay. And probably mostly the same cards.
I don't think there's any cards. I actually don't have a lot of cards in my stock right now to build that deck, so it was mostly all old stuff. But
okay, so but I think the big learning, and I think the first one we want to talk about is Hankira. I mean, that deck's pretty good.
Yeah, right? So you brought it, Alex brought it.
Right.
If I remember right.
And again, we're seeing this trend where everything that Alex brings seems to be good. Right? But that's just because he's a good player, right? But that deck's very effective, right? And the question I have for you is it really just because of Thieves Palace?
Well, certainly it helps, right? Well, the beauty about Han, Kira, and Thief Palace is it's the most effective battlefield for you, and since it's the most broken battlefield in the game, everybody's running it.
Right.
So the chances of you getting that battlefield,
even if you don't get your battlefield,
even if you don't get your battlefield, which by the way, you're going to win a lot of battlefield rolls because the dice on that deck.
Kira has a 2, a 3, a 1, a 1, a 2, and a blank.
Yeah.
She is very, very good for it. Han's actually not because he's a 2, 2, 1, 1, 0, 0.
So he's got like a 1.6.
Kira brings dice to the table, which leads into the other trick that I think everybody. It's not really a super secret.
Right.
Plan Explosion's pretty good in that deck. Like chucking a couple resources, plus you can play bait and switch. I mean, you can play everything that's good in the best faction with tricks.
Right.
It's pretty good.
I fell in love with this deck after the casual night because I got to play it a couple times, and I think I was blown away with how many tools that it had, not only on offense but on defense, right? Because you get all the best yellow removal from both factions.
Indifferent is the best value card, the best removal. I mean, it's better. Pin Down used to be the best value removal card out there, and Indifferent's better.
Yeah, it just gets rid of anything.
Only because you're not putting Indifferent in your deck if it doesn't work for you. Right. So, I mean, you can make the same argument for Pin Down, but Indifference.
Yeah, but like you don't always start the game with a vehicle, right? Where you always start with 2 neutral characters. So I was kind of amazed by how the deck felt very flexible. It also was it was tough. The extra 2 hit points feels like a lot. In fact, the game I lost to Alex, he had 1 hit point left, so he won with.
That was against Pal Blues.
Yeah, no Allegiance. Was the big winner in that deck because he had 1 extra hit point. So, you came out of nowhere with a reversal,
right? And I think that's kind of the beauty of the deck, right? Is there's probably a bajillion and a half ways to play this deck
and build it too, right? With all the yellow.
That's what I mean. Is like, we're pretty limited on good yellow cards. Right? There's a ton of them.
Right? True.
So. Deciding on what ones to play. I mean, you play Entangle because you can spot yellow all the time, and that one's on. That's a good card. Indifferent. I think Reversal's pretty good. But I'm clearly an idiot and was not running Friends in High Places like Alex, which is a no-brainer include. Like, when I started after I fell in love with this deck and I took it home and I started testing with it on TTS, I was trying to figure out what cards I liked and which ones I didn't. Friends in High Places, like you said, was a no-brainer. I started putting it in, and I found myself. Oftentimes turn 1, Friends in High Places, especially if you get even a Holdout Blaster puts that deck, you're going to get over 7 almost every time. Friends in High Places, and then I was getting out a Darksaber or the Vibro Cutlass. You run 2, right? So you run a Darksaber and 2 Vibro Cutlass,
right,
which seems like overkill, but if you're digging for high-cost cards, then...
Many games that I tested this weekend, at the end of round 1, I ended up with... 3 upgrades on the table because I was making money, right? Because you roll out those big dice, and it seemed to be I was getting Kira's +2 and Han 1 sometimes, or I would do Han special, right? Sure. And then I would end up with an extra. Plus, I was getting one from Theed.
Right.
I was getting one from Friends in High Places, so I was basically ending round 1 with 3 upgrades. Where I ran into some problems, and maybe we can kind of theory craft about this a little bit. Is when I got the Vibro Cutlass or the Darksaber out. It slowed me down because of the mixed damage sides. So then my thought was, well, what am I going to do about? I need to be able to get some of those off the table more, occasionally quicker. You have to be on your battlefield. Like that's the whole point of the deck.
You have to be on Theed.
You have to be on Theed. You have to be claiming first.
But that's
it becomes a lot harder.
At that point, I don't know that you need to be anymore, right? Okay. So I mean, think about it, right? Let's say you're living the dream and you have 2 Vibro Cutlasses and a Darksaber on somebody, right?
That is the dream.
Well, I mean, or a Black Sun and a Kanto, whatever. Right. You have 3 good upgrades on somebody. At that point, they're probably either they're going to put you down because you only have 2 damage left, in which you're probably screwed already.
Right.
Or you have 3 to 5 beefy dice on the table that they have to stop and deal with action by action. So I don't know that the speed loss is that big of a deal when. I mean, wouldn't you pass? And think about it this way: if you had a 2 out there, and the character's ability was pass an action to increase your die value by 1, would you do that?
Yes.
So then, do you care if you're moving slower?
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, right, okay.
At that point, I mean, of course you want to move fast and, get the first kill in. I'm not saying speed's not important in Destiny. Right. Please don't take that from this.
I think one of the reasons why it came to my mind the most is at the end of one of the games I played against Kit in Ayla, where I was using the Han Kira, I actually had lethal on the table, but it was mixed lethal, and I wasn't able to get it off quick enough. So I don't know if maybe there's an all-in play. I don't know if the dice are mixed enough where all-in is going to be a viable card in the deck.
I was thinking about impulsive. The only problem with, because when it was impulsive, right? But I had, because it was the game I played against you, right? I actually rolled the 2 focus or the net effective 3 focus on the Darksaber,
right?
And I was like, oh man, I really wish I had an impulsive right now. But I don't know how many times there are that. I think all-in's better because in that deck.
Right.
95% of the time I would say impulsive's better.
Right.
But I think in that deck,
there's not a lot of
money's
focus
not
sides.
A huge concern.
Right. And focus, you don't have a lot of focus.
Right.
Like that Darksaber might be the only card I think in the deck that even has a focus side.
Well, I could see a lot of arguments towards even impulsive being like a Han special just to get another upgrade on the table or something like that. But I think all-in's better because of what you're going for. You just want to do a clear the board play, right? Put a guy down and then move on. So
yeah, there was a lot of fun times where this weekend where I was able to get a Han special. So I did the Han special. I gained a money, took a money, did it's 2 damage, right? It's not Black Sun's the 2 indirect.
Yeah, Han's 2 indirect and then villain hero, right?
So there was one turn. There was one action where I was able to. I did Han special, Dark Sun blaster special,
Black Sun pistol,
and then the next action I played the planned explosion. So I got the 0. I was able to get the zeros off.
Cut the zeros off, and then hit for 10 and remove value.
Right. So it felt really good. Anyway, it was super fun deck. You talk about what we learned at casual. I think one of the big things I took away from casual is the casual setting lets me be more creative without the worry of having to bring the best deck available. Like I brought 2 decks, and I'm not saying the decks I brought were any good, but those 2 decks, and I'm talking about Populous and DJ Phasma, they taught me some tricks about those types of decks that maybe I won't be playing as, but I might be playing against. And that really, I think I'm a better player today than I was before we played casually on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I agree, and we'll talk about the next deck I want to talk about in a second. But I think that's why we're having this discussion. Is I walked away from Sunday. I played 4 or 5 games and had 3 beers, right? And that was fun in itself. But what I walked away from was, wow, I never thought this was going to be good. I never thought this was going to be good. And now that, of course, comes with a disclaimer from the other side of the camera of you're playing against casual decks, right? We get that, but what we are thinking, at least, that we're applying that to is a competitive mindset of how can I use this, at least in the current meta.
Yeah, and also our group, we were bringing casual decks, but there weren't a whole lot of casual players at that deck. Everyone, even that's fair. We play a lot of Destiny, so I think even in the hands of I think even a deck that maybe isn't quite so good in the hands of several of our teammates, you could still get a good challenge out of it and have to react differently to what they're doing. So I loved it. We got to do that more often.
No, well, and we used to do it a lot more, to be honest. Yeah. But now we have a very full calendar these days.
Right.
So the next deck that I had a lot of fun with and enjoyed its flexibility, and this probably isn't coming as a surprise to a lot of people that I think this is good, but the Talzin Iden Armored Reinforcement deck.
Yeah.
I knew it was good, but I don't think I realized how good it was until I saw it doesn't seem like this deck would be flexible, but it is.
Are you running the version that's all odd? 30 odd cards?
100% odd cards.
That's where that deck is super powerful.
But what I enjoyed about it was I run 2 vehicles in there, so you can flex, right? So when I ran up against Eric was running a fat supports deck, right? Snoke, he was running the single Bazine and then Stormtrooper or First Order Stormtrooper and then Double Down, which was very creative. I gave him a lot of credit for that. But I ran that, or when I ran up against that, I pulled down the Umbaran fighter so I could essentially get a force wave. Well, kind of. A board wipe, whatever you want to call it.
A better force wave, right?
And in most of the other times, I pulled the Dooku Solar Sailor, the Dookie boat, right? So that deck is pretty flexible. And then if you play it right, I mean, you get focus a lot in that, aside from the Talisman flips. Go ahead.
So my deck building question for you. So you're running just the 2 vehicles. Was the rest of it G17s and energy bows, like just guns plus 2 vehicles?
Well, I run dorsal turret too because it's basically a vehicle DH-17, right? Okay. And then I mean, even on the Dooku boat, like,
and the dorsal turret allows the hover tank to hit harder with its special.
Correct. Okay. So you do want to run mods, and in a previous version of that deck, I actually ran the the laser cannon, the one that when you activate does an indirect, because it's not bad.
Sure.
And you deal the indirect, but you increase to 3. But honestly, what I found was the threat of having that special on the board makes people react. Right? It's no different than going back to, we were talking about the Galactic Qualifier in Portland almost a year ago at this point, right? Getting that 3 on the table from the fragmentation grenade makes people react. Right. It changes the way they play. Getting that special down, they either have to change the way they play or take 6 damage.
Right.
I mean, and either way, that's pretty good value, right? So
yeah, it immediately puts pressure on your opponent, and then they have to exhaust their removal and their money. Especially
they have to exhaust their resources.
Action 1, you roll it in.
Whether it be cards from hand or whatever.
Right. Yeah, so
and often both.
Yeah, so that keeps them from ramping up. And if they remove it, which is fine, like I would be okay with them removing it, then you get to spend your turn rolling in. The dorsal turret has a +2.
It's a gun +2 and a 2 indirect.
Yeah. So you roll Iden, which has 2 focuses. Mother who gets to flip a die. You most turns with that deck, you're looking at 6 to 10 damage easily. I think with that deck. That's if you don't have to use one of Iden's dice to.
Right. Yes, exactly. And I think it depends on how you play it. Having the ability to put pressure on from step 1, I think adds a lot of value from how it makes your opponent react, right? So for example, in the game I was playing versus Eric, every action or every turn, first action, roll out the hover tank.
The hover tank, right?
Right. If he could control it, like you said, fine.
Right.
He just spent $1 and a card. Generally, right? $1 and a card to get it off the board.
And if his only removal is, like, we see a lot where overconfidence is his only removal, and your first die out, right, is...
Sure.
I mean, if you have a hover tank without an upgrade, he can't even do anything with it.
Right.
Yeah, and then if you use his best removal card, which is overconfidence, against your hover tank with a dorsal turret, great. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, dorsal turret goes away.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's going to roll blind.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe the tank does roll the special.
It has other sides other than the special.
No, and that's the point. It's like I roll it out. Oh, I'm sorry, a 3D indirect showing. So I don't know. I'm a huge fan. The version I enjoyed playing more personally was once I got Dooku's boat on the table.
That's so weird that that's what you went with. Like, I'm just worried that your vehicle gets removed.
There's more focus on there, right? So if you build the deck from a focus standpoint.
Sure.
Then you run all-in, of course, right? But that's just your trick. But you can also run Stifle, which is effectively an all-in, right? Throw a Stifle down, and you're like, focus.
What are you going to do about it?
5 damage.
Right. And I suppose the Dooku's Solar Sailor can carry your mod still, right?
No, it still carries the dorsal turret.
I just never thought of that. And if I had built a deck, it would have been a tank, a Solar Sailor, because it's so good, and then X, like maybe a black 2.
So my original version was a Fang, actually.
Oh, Fang, okay, right. A little tempo boost, yeah.
Maybe.
I like the Arc. I love the Arc fighter, because if it gets blown out of the sky, you can replay it.
The 2/2/3?
Yeah. I think
that's actually not that's not bad. I mean, there is, because people are running a lot of vehicle hate these days. Right?
I mean, you still lose the resources you paid on it, right? But I mean,
sure.
There are points in the game.
And resources in that deck is rough.
Oh, you do? You struggle with resources?
Well, I mean, anybody who plays Talzin does, right? I mean, that's why I think Talzin is fair. Is you're playing all those odds, and it's not about packing the odds.
That's why I like playing 5-die villain, because you don't mind taking the resources on the 5-die villain deck.
Yeah. But you're essentially playing a 5-die vehicle deck.
You are.
I mean,
yep.
And Talzin's a hell of a lot better than you know.
Well, and you're playing
person.
2 Tals and 2 Iden, and your 5th die, instead of being a lame Stormtrooper die, is an Umbaran Hover Tank.
Or a Dooku.
Yeah, or a Dooku Soldier. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, but it costs you your turn's money. I mean, your first turn, expect to like take a bunch of stuff to the face.
Right. You're going to take 6.
And that's why you have to be smart. Like when you're playing Vader, I think you don't actually bring armored in. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess.
Well, there is some zero cost removal. Well, no, because you're running the fully odd version. Fully odd.
Yep.
Oh man.
And I do think so. Here, Spicy Tech. Spoiler alert.
You're gonna give it all away.
I think there's a TIE Fighter version out there. Because who cares if you're running 4 evens in the deck when you pull them all out?
Right.
Right.
And you don't even have to run.
The problem with that deck is how do you get the money? It's like you're gonna waste your first turn flipping to money. That feels real.
Well, you only need to flip. You only need 1 money
to drop
2, right? And I don't know if I run more than we've talked about this before.
Oh, I run 3 fighters.
Run 3 fighters.
Ooh, that's an interesting.
Yeah. I mean, because chances are you're not be able to afford them. But with Iden's 2 focus, you want to use that on more dice. And what I find a lot is when I roll in Iden, and actually that's not fair because I don't play a lot of Iden, but any character with 2 focus die, it always feels really bad when you roll well and 1 focus, and you end up using that focus to fix 1 die. Mm-hmm. So when you have more crappy dice on the table, her 2 focus becomes a lot more valuable.
Right.
That way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my plan actually was to. So to be fair, I haven't even built this. Mm-hmm. Right. It has existed only on paper, but I think you actually used the 2. I think you used Talisman to flip to the 2 focus, which then flips the other 2 ties you just played to money to pay for another tie.
Right. Yeah, and that's the we've talked about this already. The real injustice of the TIE Fighter is the fact that it has a resource side.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's the tutor on the TIE Fighter. But the money's not good either.
Yeah.
But
well, anyway, so I found a crush. I think you found a crush.
Yeah, I think there's So I mean long story short of this is go play casual with your buddies. You're gonna learn a lot more than you think, unless you maybe show up with 5-wide Gungan. But no, in all seriousness, I had a lot of fun this weekend. Thanks, Mike, for putting it together.
Yeah,
I know a lot of other people had fun, and it also kind of brings you back to the roots of Destiny, which is having fun, which is super important.
Yeah, and it just feels. I think another reason why casual play is very important is if you have newer players in your group that enjoy the game. The only time they get to get better is if you only ever play competitively as a group, the only time they ever get to get better is at a competitive scene, competitive game, and they're going to take a lot of kicks to the face.
Sure.
And it makes for some feel bad moments, and some players are fine with that. They're good. Some players, it can make that not their favorite game. We want this to be their favorite game because it's the best game, in my opinion. Right. When you do something casual and you encourage the other players to bring, I didn't have a bad deck, but interesting decks. It allows that newer player to maybe thrive a little bit. You also in that setting can just flip decks with them. Just be like, here,
oh sure,
play my deck, and there's so many good things for it, and I feel bad that we don't do it more often, but I have to tell you, it's going to happen more often. So we're just going to do.
Yeah. Well, it's hard right now because the Portland Regional's in like a month now, right?
5 weeks.
It's felt so long for so
weeks.
long, and now it's almost here, right?
And that's I'm probably going to Washington.
Oh, okay.
So I have even less time.
Okay. Well, beware, Washington. He's coming for you.
Oh yeah,
Emerald City.
right.
So, all right. So I think that's pretty much it that I wanted to talk about. We did have some viewer questions that I wanted to hit Mike with. So Alex and You Done Messed Up. Fantastic name, by the way. So both of them asked very similar questions on what mechanics would you like to see come to the game. So Mike, is there a mechanic you'd like to see come to the game?
I can't remember if you mentioned it before. I really need.
How about I start?
Okay, you start first, and then mine might be a diatribe. So
I would like to see more die symbols come to the game.
Okay.
With the caveat of, can we not have that card that's like if you have 10 die symbols, you do something insane.
Correct.
Right. So just throw that out the window. But I would like to see maybe an anti-mill card, right, to where you have like a symbol that puts something back in your deck.
Okay.
Or I would even like to, on the other side, actually see a mill The reason that I would like to see a mill versus discard is because they're not the same from a value standpoint.
Okay.
Right. So you could potentially, I mean, it's really roughly the same as like having an indirect versus a damage, right? A melee versus an indirect or whatever. I could see a lot of place for that. Now, the argument can very easily be made that that's what specials are for, and that's completely fine. But there's a very different value mindset from what's showing on the die, right? I mean, if you have a 2 mil showing, it's very different than having a 0 cost special showing from like a removal standpoint or whatever.
And I think more die sides, that's a great point. More die sides allow you more design space for different characters. Like they spoiled the character from the starter. She's from the Clone Wars.
Satine.
Satine, right?
Yeah.
Like we kind of joked a little bit that we didn't necessarily know if the 2 indirect was like right for her. Like
yeah, she's a politician and kind of breaks the mold on that. But you know what? We have a new mold. So
whereas if there was more die sides, if they had introduced a new die side that maybe that was anti-mill, because she's good at fixing things, repairing relationships. So maybe having more die sides would allow for that. You know, some more creative.
It's like roll Satine in, and she hits the. Put 3 random cards on the bottom of your deck, or something.
Or maybe there's a draw. I don't know if that'd be overpowered, but like a single draw card. Like
I don't know.
I don't know the value of that. So that's a
we'd
unscientific.
Okay, I'm not even gonna go there because that's just where my head just went. So we're gonna stop that. So what would you like to see?
So I've kind of had this dream since the beginning of the game, and if I don't get it pretty soon, I'm probably going to become very upset and agitated. So, we require
red-faced Mike.
I know. We require a red 5 Luke. So, and I mean like New Hope, X-wing Luke,
whiny Luke.
Okay. At the end, when he's in the X-wing and he's getting ready to blow up the Death Star. So, it needs to be a red character. So that's where I'm like.
So you want a red Luke?
Yeah. The fact that Luke does not have a red version, because I thought Farm Boy Luke I actually really enjoy that character.
But Farm Boy Luke probably would have been yellow, right?
I mean, the one they put in the starter with Han. Like,
I know.
I felt like that should have been red. I don't know.
But wouldn't that be more yellow since he's like in the desert, like repairing? Whatever. I mean, he's not a soldier at that point.
I'm just letting you know right now,
repairing droids and stuff. Right? I hear what you're saying.
If they do red Squadron Luke and he is not red, I'm gonna drive him.
Oh, you mean as opposed to like having like a pilot Luke who's blue?
Yeah, or something. Because every Luke so far, everyone has been blue, and like Leia's been red, and she's been yellow now, right? I mean, like there's.
And I could foresee a blue Leia actually, like
Mary Poppins version.
I could see it well down the. No, because I guess like she got her old version and it was red.
Yeah. Anyway, so that would be me. I really want like that. I know it's not a new mechanic or anything, but I really want like red Luke. So make it happen, please.
Jeremy, we know you're watching. So.
Lucas, if you have any pull left, I don't know. Make a phone call. I don't know.
Nah, Lucas is too busy milling up in red.
Right.
So, all right. Well, hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what Mike and I are doing, if you could. Toss us like or subscribe. It'll put a smile on this, this beautiful face.
Pound that subscribe. Pound that little bell so you know when we put up new videos. Please comment, like. We'd love to communicate with you. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. We really appreciate it. We do this because we like to interact with people. So
so we hope to hear from you. Again, put the questions like Mike said, and we will answer them as long as they're not, off the wall. Anyway, so Mike, do you have anything else to add?
Go Commando.
Go Commando.